think a lot of artists, or I think for me anyway, I've always wanted to pass on the enthusiasm to create, because you've got to teach yourself to, or reteach yourself to create and play. You forget as you grow up, you forget because there's not enough time to create. And for some people it comes easily, for some people it doesn't. But also, I think some people, it changes when you start taking art into, or craft into, more of a business. That freedom to create almost disappears completely. And then the pressure to create increases dramatically as well. And most people aren't prepared for that. And you can't prepare anybody for that, because everyone's experience is different. But it's also trying to understand that it's also part of the process. You can't output all the time. It's you just physically can't, with whatever it is, whether it's creatively, or that's why we have days off work at a weekend, because you need time to recoup. And if you're just constantly outputting, or constantly training as well with no break, you just shut down, and then you can't do anything. And it's I've kind of taken a bit of a break from social media, not planned break, but it sounds awful, I just can't be asked. I've just not had the energy for it. I've just life has got in the way, and I thought, well, my sister says you can't draw from an empty well.
True.
And she said, but that doesn't mean sitting on social media all day. That's not filling a well. If anything,
no, definitely not.
You're absorbing stuff, but you're not replenishing your creativity. You've got to find something else. You've got to find what originally inspired you, not other people's work, not chatting with friends. What inspires you. But until you start creating all the time, you don't realize that roller coaster, that up and down, is part of the process. And even if you're having a really, really low, it will get better. It won't just disappear. You have to go through that process. It's a pruning process. A rose bush won't give better roses unless you prune it back. And it's the same. Hang on, I don't even know where I get these analogies from. Just there deep in my head somewhere.
Buried somewhere in there.
But yeah, I mean, sometimes I have to listen to myself to remind myself.
That's all you need. You just need to do what works for you. And I think that's the whole thing about like making up your own rules. You don't need anybody else's rules. You just need what works for you. And I think that's really important. So I'm going to start with
one doesn't work for someone else.
Yes. So I'm going to start with the first question, but I'm definitely going to open with that, because that was really nice and it gave me the chills.
I can't even remember.
Well, see.
I talk the hind leg of a donkey, and I've always said that. You can't shut me up.
I love it. Who in your life gave you the permission or made it safe for you to feel like you could be a creative being in the world?
Yeah, it was definitely my parents. We always had music in the house. My mum was either playing the piano, the recorder, the trumpet. She'd encourage us to. I was rubbish at piano. I mean, I had lessons so many times, and I was just absolutely rubbish. It was the reading of music. It's mathematical, and my brain just could not compute. I liked playing, but she gave me the freedom just to play as well. So we always had instruments that we could play with. And she liked sewing as well, so she used to make clothes for us. She was a knitter, is a knitter. So there was always something we could get our hands into and onto. My dad's an engineer, so he liked tinkering with classic cars. He liked doing woodwork. We had the luxury of a nice big house in South Africa where there was lots of space. So, we could kind of go into his garage. He'd give us a hammer and a bucket of nails and a piece of wood, and he'd get us used to using tools and used to using our hands. He'd let us have a play on his lathe supervised, and we'd experiment with resin. We'd build go-karts. It was I think we had the luxury of space to be creative, and it was okay to make a mess and experiment. I mean, I remember doing crafts with my mum growing up. At one point it was rubber stamps, and then we were doing molds and casting with plaster Paris. But right from an early age, it was, the best part of my year was getting that new box of crayons and all your stationery for school that year. It's better than Christmas. It's like, new pencils, and the smell of opening a new box of wax crayons, when none of them are broken yet. It's stuff like that. That kind of, we always had paper we could draw on. I think with my dad's job, we were fortunate that we could afford to experiment as well. That was a big thing. But also in South Africa, we grew up with a lot of kind of natural fiber arts and crafts all around us. So there was culturally, it was a creative country. It is a creative country. So you had, women making mats out of old plastic bags, carrier bags. They'd rip them up into like long strips, and you'd make your kind of floor mats out of plastic bags. They crochet the plastic, and using natural fibers like the long grass to make hats and bags, and some of the school trips I remember going on where they talked about how what children used to play with in years gone by, with making figures out of river mud and throwing games where you throw mud at each other with a long stick, to kind of see how far you could throw the mud, that kind of thing. It was a creative environment, and
very nurturing.
And then at school there was always drama club, and during school holidays my parents would enroll me into art clubs and art schools, and so it was just a constant well to pull from, really. There was always something that we could do, and my parents encouraged it, and it helped that I had a huge interest in it. Because you can't, if someone's not interested, it doesn't matter how much is there for them to pull from. If they're not interested, they're not interested. But as they grow up, they'll remember and then they find a bit of creativity later on. At least that's something just fell off in the kitchen.
What was your first memory of creative expression?
I don't think I have a first memory because we've just
always been around it. Yeah.
But I think the first memory I have of validation for my creativity was when I was in my first year of school. And I won the art prize for my first year of school. I'd sit on the carpet, the front of the class, during playtime or free creative time, and there was a tub of plasticine, and I made an elephant. And my teacher liked it so much she kept it and she put it up on the shelf, and it stayed there all year. Nice. And I won the art, and that was at the start of the year, but I won the art prize at the end of the year because of that piece, and because I was always just wanting to paint and draw, and I wasn't scared to make mistakes. I tried for years now. I've tried to replicate an elephant. Do you think I can do it now? No, but I think it's because I'm overthinking it. But when you just let yourself just be creative and play,
and that goes back to
when
what
magic happens.
Yeah, and that goes back to what you were saying earlier about sometimes it is okay to take yourself away from it, and maybe if you just didn't think about it, you would make another elephant. So
I'll probably set the blob of clay on the couch one evening, and I'll probably just end up
do it. Yeah.
sculpting something. I mean, that's where some of my ideas have come from. Is I doodle with clay. I'll just take have Super Sculpey,
Yeah.
and I'll just sit with a blob of it in my hand, and I'll just, because I need.
Yeah.
Well, you can see I've been holding a pen the whole
Yeah.
time. I've got to keep my hands busy.
Yeah.
So and yeah, if I don't have something in my hands, then I'll have my phone in my hands, and I'll be scrolling through my phone when, even when we're
You could
watching a
be,
movie, I'm scrolling
yeah.
through my phone. I was like, I'm not even
What am I
looking at
doing?
anything, but it's in my hand.
Yeah. I think
So
we're all so guilty of that. That's why I put the screen time on my phone, and I'm like, how many times have I actually picked that up today, and why? Like, what was I looking for? Was it seeking something? Why am I always seeking something outside of myself? And I keep asking myself that question, and I end up putting my phone away and going, you know what? And I think someone said something to me that many people don't like hearing, but I said it to my dad the other day, because my dad has started really like being quite addicted to his phone, and he's constantly like scrolling through, looking,
my
trying to
dad's
get to
the
the bottom of news, trying to get to the bottom of the news. And I'm like, it's never going to
It's
end,
never going to end. Yeah.
But it's funny because, I was saying to him, think about how many summers you have left. Because someone said this to me once. They were like, say you live until you're,
yeah, no,
this age.
Don't do that. That's scary.
Yeah, I know.
We're both in our 40s now, and I'm like,
I know. And I said to my dad the other day, and he was like, don't do that. And I said, yeah, but think about the amount of time that you're spending in your phone on someone else's, when you could actually be spending it in your
someone
life.
else's life. Yeah.
Or just being in your life and enjoying like what's around you.
It's when Russell and I go away anywhere, we'll both take photos while we're away.
Yeah.
But we don't tend to take many photos. If there's a show or an activity going on, and we tend to put our phones away because we want to remember and watch it. We don't want to film what we're watching, because then you're just watching it through your screen anyway, and you're not
there.
You're not immersed. You're not immersed in it, and you're
Yeah.
never going to get the full effect unless you're kind of completely focused.
When I took my 6-month break from social media, I don't think I took many photos at all, because I was like, well, I'm not posting this. I'm just it would just be for me, and I'm like, I'm here seeing this, so I don't need to take.
And how often do you look back at your old photos?
Yeah, exactly. I have so many.
Of another
hard drives
another range of mountains, or another pretty field, and another pretty sunset.
Yeah,
I mean, they're all pretty, but it's the photos I tend to look back on are the ones of family.
Yes. So you've kind of answered. You can
sorry.
see you're very you're so passionate about your creativity. When did it become like, when was there a time when you were like, this is what I'm meant to do? Like, I know you had that space when you were younger and you loved creating, but
yeah, I mean, there was a time where I wasn't creating much at all. I'd do the odd drawing, and it was it's funny, as you get older, people tell you art is very nice as a hobby. Yeah, it's very nice as a hobby, but you can't do it as a career.
Yeah.
And I got told that so much that I believed it. I actually finished college early. I could have done an extra year, and to kind of do the kind of pre-grad course. And I decided, no, I'm going to go and get a real job, a proper job, and I'll just keep my art as a hobby. Because I mean, I went to art college, and I kick myself. I mean, you can't undo things that you've done in the past, because you wouldn't be where you are today had you not made those decisions. So you can't wish that you had done things differently. Because you'll end up in a different place. So I've always kind of had some kind of drawing, or it was usually drawing and painting for a while, because that was the grown up art to do. And I probably took it a little bit too seriously, because I used to turn my nose up at cartoons and turn my nose up at cutesy stuff, because that's not real art. I guess I used to be an art snob.
Are you outing yourself as an art snob?
I was at one point. I was an art snob.
Hello, my name is Heather, and I'm a reformed art snob.
And then I don't know when it happened, but I mean, there was a time where I didn't have time to create. Life just wasn't it just wasn't going right. And I had 2 small kids as well, so art was the last thing I had time for. So when the kids got a bit older, and I'd separated from my first husband as well, I had a lot more time for myself, and I found energy again, and I kind of found myself again through art. I could lose myself. I could forget my worries. I could just lose myself in a process, whether it was coloring, whether it was painting, whether it was sculpting something. That's when I rediscovered clay again. And I just found a calmness. There was just a lovely sense of calm. And the more I did it, the more then I started getting requests for, can you draw my pet, or can you draw my baby, or then that started happening. So I started doing more of that. I started attending art classes again and art groups. Started kind of immersing myself into an art community again. And then it was like, I found my tribe. I found my people again, because I didn't really, when I came out of the art world, I always felt like the oddball. I didn't feel like no one got me. I always felt a bit stupid, like my opinions and the way I thought was so different from everyone else that I thought there was something wrong with me, And then when I found a group of creative people again, I was like, I'm not odd. Well, actually, yes, I am odd, but I'm not normal in the right way. I don't want to be normal. I want to be creative. I want to be with those people, because creative thinkers are problem solvers. And I found creative people, generally speaking, some of the most positive people I've been around, because they see a problem and they don't go, oh, there's a problem. They see a challenge and how can we overcome this? I need to, my computer's, my laptop, or my screen's at the wrong height. I don't have a laptop stand. What can I use? Okay, I can use that book. Oh, but if I prop that up and that up, then I can get it to that height. And then, I can, when I was setting up a camera rig here, for a long time, it was a broomstick, duct tape, cable ties, and string.
Of course it was.
Because that's what I had.
That's what worked. Yeah, that to hand.
I got it to work. I think at one point I even didn't have lights. I think I even duct taped a torch up somewhere, and it was those kinds of people I wanted to be around. And it I look back and it feels like things happened really quickly, but I look back and it's been a very, very, very long, slow process. And it's been, these things don't happen overnight. You can't build up a social network overnight, and you don't want to either, because if you build up a network really quickly, it can disappear very quickly.
Yes.
It's got to be a slow burner. It's got to be organic. You've got to just grow. You've got to develop. And when I started believing in myself and believing that I could create, it was after, I think I'd been made redundant from my job, which I'd been waiting for redundancy for a while. I knew my turn would come up one day, so I just kind of stayed put. I always felt like a fraud in that job. I just never felt like I could do it, but I never felt competent doing the job. And I was a technical writer. And I've since found out most people in the company feel that way anyway. So I wasn't that odd, really, but I was one of a few creative people. Most people there were engineers or salespeople or a combination of the two. And they think differently. So I'd come in and go, oh, I did this, and have you seen this? And I'd get the, okay. And I'd go, oh.
Not the right place. Not the right audience.
The wrong audience, yeah. And they probably just thought I was odd. Whereas now it's like, I'm with people who understand my quirks, and I walk into a craft warehouse, and I'm like kid in a sweet shop. I literally have to put my hands behind my back so I don't pick anything up, and I don't touch and stroke everything. The company I'm working for now, I remember the first time I went into their warehouse, and I think at one point I said, I have to shut up because I'm so excited. I'm really sorry, this must be so off-putting for you, but I am so excited. Look at these products. And so I've kind of learnt to kind of keep that excitement at least hidden. I can control it a little bit more, but not always.
Yeah, there's still the kid in you who wants to squeal at everything
all the time. I mean, a friend of mine gave me this pen, and it's pink, and it's got an eraser on it so I can rub out the ink, and it's just like, Heather, it's a pen, but it's a nice pen.
I'm excited about this pen.
I mean, but I think it's fun when you can still have that excitement.
Yes.
And I guess I applied for a TV show, kind of showcasing crafters across the UK, and during the selection process, I showed them some of my polymer sculptures, and I showed them some of my paintings, and they were like, okay, we want to look at your sculptures. Forget the paintings. We don't want to see that. We want your sculpture work. I'm like, oh, that's not what I was expecting. So they kind of made the choice for me of what I was going to start focusing on. And so I started plowing all my energy into that. And it was at the same time, just after that was filmed, I was approached by the company I now work for to try out their products. And so they said, choose what you want. We'll send it to you. Tell us what you think. And so I did that. And then it came up that I'd done some TV work before. And they were like, oh, okay, well, we're looking for a demonstrator. Would you be interested? So, yeah, absolutely. So that kind of all happened at the same time. In fact, I went up to see them 2 days before the TV show was launched.
Wow.
And then I started kind of freelancing for them. Then I did a kind of Christmas special show where I was, I think it was a late Christmas show as far as the craft industry is concerned. When you're buying stuff, it was probably October time, which is very late for selling Christmas stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember I drove up to Newcastle, which was a 7.5 hour drive. And I had a crash course from the CEO and the other company directors on how to present for TV. And I had to kind of present the products to them. And it was like, I kind of loved and hated it because it was terrifying, because the very next day I took all that product and I went and drove down to the TV studios, and I did one of my first live shows for them, and it was a 2-hour special. And I did it, and I was terrified. And it's now kind of almost 4.5 years later, and I'm doing this regularly now, and I still get scared. I mean, I still get that nervous energy. It's like, it's stage fright, but you learn to kind of harness that fear and turn it into creative energy rather than standing still like a rabbit caught in headlights or deer caught in headlights. So, and everyone I speak to in the industry has this, oh yeah, but I'm such a fraud.
Yeah.
You fake it till you make it.
Everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think feeling free to create, believing that you can create, and allowing yourself that freedom to create is a constant roller coaster. You or a yo-yo sometimes. You're just constantly spinning, going, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. I am. As soon as you accept that that's just part of the process, then you can relax.
Yeah.
Now it's just, instead of me going up and down with it, I'm kind of watching the yo-yo now, or watching the roller coaster going, yeah, I'm up. Yeah, I'm down. And I'm just I've got that kind of plateau now where
that ocean of that deep kind of feeling of like just calmness is underneath everything. Yeah.
You kind of go with the flow rather than fighting against it now.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, it's I've probably talked myself into a massive circle going over lots of stuff.
Okay. We talked a little bit about self-belief there. I like it. It's one of the questions. I've already got that one covered.
I was going to say I should have been a politician because I can't remember the question you asked me.
I think it started with how did it become something you were passionate about? But it's really cool.
Well, I mean, my counter question is how can you not be passionate about being creative?
Yes. And I think that kind of leads on to the next question, which is like, what is the purpose of creating to you? It just everything.
Yeah, I mean, creating to me is like breathing. I took a part-time job which was not creative at all. And yeah, I could do it, but there was no love, there was no life in it. It was just, okay, this is how a hamster must feel. You know, it's just constantly just running, no purpose, just one task onto the next. No passion for anything. Seeing people coming in with that same kind of dead look in their eyes as well. And I think when, maybe it's just me, but I find most creative people can read other people's emotions quite well. And you can see when someone has a spark and you can see when someone doesn't. And it's those people that have that kind of, I don't know, lack of spark is the only word
curiosity. I think it's, for me, it's like that lack of curiosity about the world, or the point where some people get to where they feel they know it all and they've learned everything, and I'm like, I will continue to learn until the day I take my last breath. Like the moment I take my last breath.
We were talking about coffee earlier, and I was like, I needed randomly out of nowhere the other day, because my coffee, I thought, oh, coffee's getting expensive now. Why is coffee expensive? Oh, how do they make coffee? And you know, it's like I went and I was reading up about how they make coffee, and I'm like, oh, this is fascinating. And I'm always like that. It's how does a watch work? And how does that light blink like that? What's creating that effect? I'm constantly looking up random stuff. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be with painting or sculpture or you know, how, you know, I even bought a book on how to create your own LEDs. I've not used it yet. I don't have all the tools yet. But I wanted to know, you know, if I wanted to incorporate LEDs into my artwork, I need to have a basic understanding of electronics
of how they work,
now. So, you know, it's like, well, I was rubbish at that kind of stuff at school, but now that I can actually see it being how I can apply it, it's, you've got that curiosity and you're always wanting to learn something.
Yeah.
And you're right, I do struggle when I see someone who's just like, they just got no it's a curiosity. It's like, well, aren't you interested? No, not really.
Yeah.
Oh. Don't you want to know how it works? No, it works.
And I think the world needs those people, and the world needs people like you. And I think there's a balance, you know. It's like I wouldn't say I'm creative in a lot of ways. Like my husband's always saying, "You're so creative," but I don't feel. But I
do not want to hear you say that.
I don't see myself as a creative person. I'm like, I just don't see it at all. I'm more creative with, I guess I'm more creative with words than I am with, you know. But it's something that I can take or leave. If you would like to join an online art community with a difference, then consider looking at the description box below. We are opening up an online art portal with a difference. So if you would like to ignite, elevate, and explode your creativity and work on your inner artist as well, with lots of coaching and mindfulness tips and all good things like that, then have a look below and register your interest with us today. We hope you enjoy the rest of the interview.
Someone said to me, you never underestimate, and I've seen this actually from many people, never underestimate what impact you have on someone else's life. Because, you know, I mean, I put myself out there on social media and on TV, and I've kind of made myself visible. I kind of keep my personal life quite private.
Yeah.
I think you have to, but I mean, not much goes on in my personal life other than me creating and spending time with family. You know, it's
Yeah.
don't really go out unless it's for a walk in the woods, which I haven't done for a while.
Although I was very jealous to see that you went to the pianist's what's his name?
Einaudi.
Yes.
Ludovico. Oh, wow.
I was very jealous because that I love his music. Like I was like,
Yeah,
wow, that would have been
it's
amazing.
quite often it's just playing in the house because it's
Oh,
just,
it's so beautiful.
I think what I love about it is he's not just playing the piano, he's feeling that emotion. He's
He's
recreating an
embodying it
emotion, and
completely. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that's what every creative strives for, is to, I mean, I know when I used to play, in inverted commas, the piano,
Mm-hmm.
I used to like to feel the music. When you press the keys, you can still feel that vibration through your fingers, and you can, when you've got a traditional piano, you can feel that sound kind of in your chest a little bit, and feel it in your feet when your feet are on the pedals. And for me, listening to piano music, it's better when I'm watching someone play piano music, because you can see them completely absorbed by the process, and you can
Yeah.
feel, you can see and feel that creativity coming out of their fingertips and
Mm-hmm.
just completely enveloping them. um and you got that sense when we went to that concert as well. You know, it was just him and one or two other people on stage, but you still got that sense of, he was, I think music's quite a private, personal thing as well, and so to be able to still have that feeling of it still being private and personal with a whole audience, I think that's
Yeah, there's an
magic in
intimacy.
itself.
There's definitely
It's
an
intimate,
intimacy
yeah.
when you listen to his music. It almost feels like you're sort of eavesdropping on
Yeah.
someone just in their, just completely in their flow. You know,
And
it's
what,
lovely.
you know, I've had a few people say, you know, write to me, you know, when I don't think that I'm really having much of an impact, you know, someone will go, "You really made my day. You know, you made me believe I could do this. You helped
Mm-hmm.
me get through a tough time. You know, your enthusiasm's made me feel this way." Or, you know, I don't often share when I'm going through a bad patch on social media, because people don't want to see my sob story, you know. But I've had people reach out to me when I've been quiet, going, "Are you okay?" You know, and that has been like, whoa, you know,
Yeah.
you actually care, or not care about me, but it's like, it's scary when you realize, you know, you are noticed.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to be, I don't want to be a social media celebrity, you know. I mean, it's just, you know, I'm not about fancy nails, and I mean, I've not really got makeup on today either. Just, you know, I'm not about that. This is
Mm-hmm.
me. I'm a creative person.
Yeah.
Don't have time for nail polish because it's just going to peel off anyway. And my hands are
Yes.
in clay.
Yeah.
You know, I'll make sure my cuticles look nice, which is, you know, I've got Vaseline. Um, Vaseline and olive oil works perfectly. My
My
nails, I
friends.
don't need anything else.
Exactly.
Um, um, but, you know, this is me, and you either like me or you don't like me, but I hope you like me. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
There has to be a level of comfort with your own self that it doesn't matter what happens on the outside. You're comfortable with you and the way you are. And I think that's,
yeah,
yeah, and that is what illness has taught me as well, about it's not for anybody else, it's just for me. In other sense, I'm not like someone who will go and spend like loads on like I don't do fast fashion anymore. I refuse to buy anything that's not maybe
yeah.
recycled or from a thrift store, or I just done with that, because I just think about all the landfills that are just going to, I can't do it. I'm just like, no, I
Mm.
can't do it. And if I do buy anything, two things get thrown out because I hate accumulating. So,
You see, I need
yeah.
to adopt that in my studio. I said to Russell the other day, I need to get more storage, and he went, "No, you don't." I went, "No, I really do need to get more storage." He went, "No, you need to have a
Need to
clear
throw
out."
things out.
No, but
No, no,
because
no.
when I throw, I mean, I had in the cupboard, I had some Subway sandwich cardboard boxes because they're a nice size for postage.
Mm-hmm.
I had them there for months, and I thought, I'm going to decorate them. I'm going to do a craft project with them. No, this is ridiculous. Months I had them in there. So I threw them away. The very next week, I got an order for one of the wands I make, and I go, damn it, that
would be
box would have been the perfect size. So I went to the shops. I was trying to find a postage box or a postage tube that was the right size. Do you think I could find one anywhere? No, they were either massive or too small. So I went back to Subway and I bought myself lunch and I said, can I have one of the boxes, please? And they went, oh, you're going to have to pay extra for that because you're eating in. I said, no, I don't care. Don't put the sandwich in the box. I just want the box because I want it for posting something. And they went, you what? But it's like, that's why I don't throw anything away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I did get a nice lunch out of it. So
you did. Subway. I mean, how can you complain? One of my questions was going to be,
and this has not been endorsed.
Yes, not in any way endorsed. Just FYI. So one of my questions was going to be, how do you connect with your art on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis? But it's your job now, so and yeah.
We don't have a dining room anymore.
Mm-hmm.
My dining room is my studio. We don't have a dining room table anymore.
Fair enough.
We don't have a spare cupboard in the house because it's full of
art
stuff. Yeah, it's you can't move in this house without bumping into a piece of my artwork or a pen, pencil, lump of clay or something. And it's not entirely my doing as well. I boxed up a whole bunch of my sculptures, bits and pieces I wasn't happy with that I just chucked into a box. And I came home one day and my husband had gone through it all and he put it up everywhere. We've got stuff everywhere.
Wow. He's like, do I even live here?
Hey, if he wants it out there, I'm fine.
Love it.
But I mean, we've got lots of weird faces around the house as well. So I mean, like pen pots and stuff like that. So you know, created pen pots like this. But we've got a thing for googly eyes as well. So we see faces in everything.
Yeah.
And we have googly eyes stuck everywhere around the house. If there's on wooden drawers and that kind of thing where the wood grain looks like a face, there are googly eyes there. There's googly eyes on the dustbin. There's googly eyes on our bedside cupboards as well because it looks like it's a dog's face. So we've got little googly eyes dotted about there as well.
Yeah.
I've got a massive, big wooden spider on my wall behind me up here.
Yeah, it's got googly eyes.
And that's got googly eyes on it as well. So
literally,
and then I've got
literally the takeaway is if you just surround yourself with things, you're going to have to be creative because it's just going to be right in your face all the time.
Yeah, but the thing is, you start seeing creativity everywhere as well. The more you start being creative, the more, and you immerse yourself in that, you can't help but be creative. It's like a
so I guess the whole discipline thing then for you comes very easy. You're just so
no,
super
it's really hard.
Oh really?
It's really hard. There are days I have sat here with all my stuff around me and I've gone, I can't do this. I can't do this. I just can't do this. And I think I mentioned this to you years ago. It's like when you've crammed too much stuff in a bottle, but the bottle's only got a really, really thin spout or top, and all that stuff has to come out. But now there's a backlog. It's so you've got so many ideas there that you just get kind of clogged up, and then you've got to release it somehow. But how do you release it when you've got too much stuff and you can't focus on one thing? So, I'll go through phases where I'm really productive and I'll make loads of stuff. And then I kind of overdo it maybe a little bit and I burn myself out and then I can't do anything. and I'm not
Finding
very
that
disciplined.
balance.
I'm not disciplined at all. I'm a terrible business person. I'm the worst manager. I've got a terrible boss. I'm the worst boss in the whole world because I can't make my staff do anything, i.e. me. And I guess this is why I'm really grateful that I've now got a job in the art
Creative
industry.
Yeah.
In the creative industry, because I've now got a manager who focuses on the business side of things, and she can give me direction. It's like, we've got this project needs to be done by this date. I need you to focus on this. Right.
So that's
do
discipline.
that.
Yeah. So you can discipline yourself when there's a deadline.
Yeah. If there's a deadline, I can discipline myself to a degree. Still like that school or college student who leaves everything to the last minute. But then I think it's because I work better under pressure.
Yes.
But at the same time, too much pressure can kill, as you know,
kill creativity.
Too much pressure can stop you in your tracks. But it's like that saying goes, the hardest step to take is that very first step. And once you've taken that first step, then you just have to take the next one and the next one. Then your creativity slowly starts to come back. I mean, before I do any TV show, or when I'm planning a TV show and craft demonstration, I mean, even the week before, I'm sometimes sitting there going, I can see what products I have to demonstrate, but what am I going to demonstrate? What project am I going to do? What can I make that showcases this product best? And there are times where, I'll have about 5 or 6 half-made projects ready to go because I don't know what I'm going to feel like doing on the day, or where inspiration is going to come. And sometimes I don't even touch those 5 pieces I've made, and I'll make something completely new on the day. So I probably need to. I think that's something that comes with experience as well.
Yeah.
You don't need to create too much, because you can over prep.
Yeah, and then you get yourself all tied up.
Over-prepping is good, but then you can actually work too hard. You don't need to do as much prep as you think you need to do. So, I can be disciplined, but most of the time I'm
something
just
to work on.
Throw it all up in the air and see what sticks.
Yeah.
I don't work well with lists.
No,
I can write a to-do list, and then that to-do list gets pushed to the side, and then I go kind of organically.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's in your nature. Like, that's creativity for you. It's like that, just switching.
I'm the same when I'm cooking. It's like, I'll be cooking and I'll go, what does this need? It needs a bit of this. Oh, no, it actually needs a bit of that. And that's how I cook. I'll follow a recipe to a degree, but I'll look at the recipes now and go, okay, that's going to taste like this. It's going to need that ingredient as well. So then I start being creative cooking with, it's like changing up the flavors to the flavors we like, but based on a recipe. I'm not good at baking for that very reason, because baking is quite precise. You can't
involves math.
With the ratios. You can't mess around with ratios with baking. You can do that with cooking.
Exactly. Do you have rituals around making your art? Like, do you have to listen to a certain song before you start, or is there anything you need to do to get yourself like ready to do it, or do you just end up just starting? And
I actually find music as a distraction when I'm working.
Okay.
If I'm doing something that's a very repetitive process, so if I'm batch making something, I typically tend to put on audiobooks. Audiobooks is my go-to. When I don't have to think about the creative process, it's an audiobook. Because then I can focus on the story I'm listening to. It's usually some kind of murder story, so I get completely engrossed in the story, and my hands can still do what they've been trained to do. And then I'll pause it when I've got to think about something. I don't mind listening to music when it's someone else's music, but I can't choose music. I just find it, I can't choose anything, no.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll put a movie on in the background. It's the TV's around the corner, and the dogs seem to watch it more than I do, but I can just hear it. And in fact, I've actually started watching TV series with my husband, and
Mm-hmm.
I've come in at season 2 because I've listened to the entire season 1.
Ah, okay.
When I've been here, he's been watching that, and I know the story, so I can just tune
You're
in
like,
with
oh,
season
that's what that
2, and
person looks like.
that's yeah,
I thought they looked like
pretty
a
much.
snail because that's what I was making at the time.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean,
Mm.
if you know, if Russell, we both work from home, but if he does go into the
Mm-hmm.
office, if he goes to the lab, then quite often it's, you know, I'll be working in here, and then I'll realize just how quiet the house is. And I've been sat for hours just in silence. I can sit in silence quite happily and quite happy with my own,
Yeah.
with, you know, just being on my
Your own
own.
thoughts. Yeah.
Or I'll ring my best mate up and we will chat on the phone for 2-3 hours.
Yep.
Um, and I'm crafting and she's knitting or crocheting or whatever, and we just keep each other company while I
Mm-hmm.
craft, and and
Nice.
she does her bit.
Bit of social interaction while you make.
Yeah,
Love it.
so sometimes I'm quite happy to just sit on my own, and other times do need a bit of social interaction. Or sometimes I think the dogs get a bit antsy if the house is too quiet, and then that's when the TV
Right.
goes on.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah,
Hmm.
but
And
yeah, it's just a case of, when I have a clear objective of what I need to do that day, it's easy to just sit down and, right, this is what I
do
need
it.
to do. And I think sometimes to start that process is, I'll have a bit of a blitz of the studio. I'll clean it,
Yeah.
you know,
Okay.
reorganize my tools. I know when I'm getting ready to be creative again, because I'll have a bit of a change around in the studio, reorganize everything, tidy everything up,
Yeah.
label boxes. And then it's like, right, now I'm good to go.
Yeah.
And that is kind of a kick up the backside to get me going.
I
Yeah.
like. I like. And when it comes to legacies, some people want to leave a
Mm-hmm.
legacy, others don't. What is your legacy when it comes to your art? What would you like to be around when you're no longer around?
Well, my husband's already said he doesn't really care much about all my other work, but he wants to keep my sketchbooks.
Hmm.
Because I
Interesting.
think sketchbooks they're raw. There's nothing
Hmm.
refined about them. They're just unapologetic scribbles or notes to myself, or an idea for a sculpture. I mean, in fact, I still get inspiration. I haven't used my sketchbooks for years now, and I would like to restart, because they're a great source of creative inspiration when you're having a down period.
Yeah.
And it's quite interesting looking back at them years later and going, oh, that's where that sculpture came from a
Hmm.
sketch
That
from about 5
idea.
years ago. You know,
Nice.
it's an
Yeah.
idea I had, but I didn't have the skills at that time to create that. But so you start off with that fundamental idea, and then as time goes by, you're always absorbing new ideas and inspiration.
Yeah.
So I know from his point of view, that's what he wants to keep. Um, I I guess I just want to, if it was what will be on my, what will be on my tombstone, what have I left the world? It's I'd like to leave people with a thirst to be creative, or
Okay.
give them, I love it when you teach someone how to do something and you see that light come on and they go, I
I get it.
can do it.
Yeah.
It's that self-belief that they can actually do it. And that's what I love seeing which is why I love to teach and demonstrate, because um it it gives someone else that feeling of validation and self-worth, that they're not stupid just because they can't do something. I'm having to learn to kind of really simplify some of the things that I do, because I can get I used to focus on like really fine detail, and I wanted things to be perfect. And I used to waste so much time trying to
Hmm.
make, draw someone's face, and you wanted to get, that hyper realistic quality. I can't do that. I mean, yeah, if I probably spent hours and hours doing something, I probably could, but I don't want to. I want a bit of texture, and I want it to feel tangible and achievable for other people. someone said to me that they saw some of my work the other day and they went, yeah, but a beginner won't, they'll see this and they'll go, I can't do that. And I was like, well, I have taught beginners how to do this. So I know beginners can, but it's what they perceive they can do. And it's changing that perception of what people can do. And I think I want people to start believing that they can be creative and find a bit of psychological release because it's I think people underestimate just how therapeutic art therapy is. I'm not trained in art therapy. And I never will be. I think if I knew then what I know now, and I had to choose an academic career path, I probably would have gone down the occupational therapy route. Had I, if art wasn't an option at all.
Yeah.
Because I've seen how, I used to have a very weak right hand. I'd pick up pieces of cardboard, like that, and then my hand would cramp up and I'd drop just even a notebook.
Oh, wow.
My hand was really, really weak. I started using polymer clay. Then within the first month of doing it a lot, I actually injured my hand so badly I couldn't even turn the light switch on with my middle finger because I just repetitive strain, But I slowed down and started using my pasta machine properly, and because that kind of hand cranking the pasta machine, that's going to hurt your hand if you do it too much. But I've built up the strength in my hands so much more now. I can open glass jars like, I never used to be able to open glass jars properly. The muscles in my hands have increased so much that I couldn't wear my wedding and engagement ring for about 3 years. I've just had them resized for our 10th anniversary. I'm like, yay, I finally got them back. But they went up about, I think it was about three sizes up.
Wow.
Because my hands have, the muscles in my hands have, my hands are so much stronger because of playing with clay and you're kind of molding it, and my hands are so much stronger. I still get pain in my right hand, and you've got to be careful with everything. You've got to be mindful. You can even injure yourself. If you're writing too much, you can injure yourself because of just that action of holding a pen can cause a repetitive strain. So I think I just want people to believe that they too can be creative. If you can write your name, you can draw, And
so if you had to, like, if you had to give people 3 takeaways from talking to me, if they were maybe struggling to connect with their creativity, or they didn't have that self-belief or that motivation, what 3 things would you tell them to go away and do?
Okay, for having just come out of a very, very low point myself where I've not been creative, is give yourself time. It's perfectly natural to be feeling that way, and it's perfectly okay. You don't have to create all the time. When you're doing it for a living, you've got that added pressure of, well, I need to be creating because otherwise I'm not going to get paid. That's really tough. But you can't draw from an empty well. So you can't be creative unless you have spent time doing the things that inspire you. And I'm not talking about being on social media. Social media doesn't, it inspires to a degree, but it's information overload. And it's actually, I find that it stops me being creative. But for me at least, spending time with other creative people was a massive help, and spending time making something you would not normally make. So going to your craft group and trying out a technique that you would never in a million years typically do, but you actually find sometimes that wakes up that creative spark a little bit. It doesn't even have to be good. I mean, some of the stuff I've made is absolutely rubbish. In fact, I've got boxes of stuff that have been complete failures. But people don't share that on social media. So you only ever see the perfect picture on social media.
Yes.
And so allow yourself time, allow yourself to make mistakes and just play. Stop striving for perfection, because actually people don't really want to see perfection anymore. Fingerprints on your clay, it's okay. You know,
yeah,
it's organic. It's, yeah, I mean, be kind to, I mean, I was going to say, you know, it didn't help me at the time. Be kind to yourself, give yourself time, go back to things that inspire you, like a walk in the woods, or spending time with friends, or trying a new craft, or it doesn't matter if if you've done 101 different crafts already and you want to try something new. If it inspires you, do it. You know, it doesn't matter. I used to think that it was a weakness that I couldn't stick with one craft. I think I mentioned this earlier, that it's difficult to kind of place myself in the art or craft world, because I do a bit of this and I do a bit of that and I do a bit of the other. But I'm now doing a job where I actually need all those skills. It's like, think outside the box, but don't think too far outside the box, because we need you to fit inside the box. But when it comes to creativity, forget the bloody box.
Yeah, throw the box away. It's all good.
Throw the box away.
Use it for an armature instead.
Rip it up, make it into something, make it into a mat instead.
Yeah.
Or a hat.
A cardboard hat. I love it.
I think, spending time with, well, I was going to say spending time with family has been good for me.
Yeah.
Family, and I don't mean, I'm talking about family and friends, so kind of biological and chosen family.
Chosen family, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it sounds ridiculous. I've never ever considered myself as a video gamer at all. But I am heavily inspired, and I think a lot of people in the creative industry have been inspired by the Harry Potter world, you know, and how it's kind of opened up so many different stories as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was bought the Hogwarts Legacy game, and I'm so rubbish at video games. I mean, Russell was just watching me play because I was so bad.
So this is entertainment.
But I'm now doing my almost third playthrough on the game.
Love it.
But it's actually I'm not endorsing the game at all, but it's for me, it was a creative release as well, because I could lose myself in another world. I could fly a broom badly if I wanted to. I could go fighting if I wanted to. I could make potions and pet animals if I wanted to. I could just go exploring in the Scottish Highlands if I wanted to, without having, without being able to be there. I could go walking in the woods without actually being there. And the graphics are so good that I actually felt like I was in some of those places. I could hear the sound of the ground. I could almost smell the forest, that kind of thing. For me, I actually understood where my kids were coming from when they're playing video games. I was like, oh, okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
And I mean, for my daughter, it's, she watches movies. That's another creative release for her, or at least an emotional time out.
Yeah. And
seeing the artwork in that game inspired me with new ideas for things I wanted to create. So it's, you don't always, when you're in a dark place, you don't always remember where you get your creative inspiration from. And when you're in that dark place, your mind is also going, well, for me anyway, my mind was going a mile a minute. I couldn't settle, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't create, I couldn't, and then that would lead to more frustration. So sometimes it was a case of actually going, you know what, it's okay to just leave it all alone. You don't have to create all the time. If creating is not giving you that emotional release, and if creating is starting to feel like a job or feel like hard work, that's the time that you need to stop, take a step back, go and do something else.
Yes.
And just know that it's all part of the process. Every single artist goes through it. Every single artist has has their ups and downs. On social media, you only really ever see the good
The ups.
points.
Yeah.
You see the finished product most of the time, and
Yeah.
even the works in progress are what we want you to see. you know, um, you don't you don't see where we're throwing a hissy fit because we've dropped something on the floor for the umpteenth time, or
Yeah.
something's not working, or you've spent all day or 2 days making something and it gets burnt in the oven and you've got to start all over again and you've got a project deadline. You don't
Mm.
see that. You don't
Yeah.
see that frustration, or
Maybe we should start
the
sharing
dog's
more of
sick.
those. Yeah.
Yeah, the dog's sick, or the dog ate something that you've been working on,
Yeah.
or the kids are having a school or college meltdown.
Yeah.
Life happens, and you have to let life happen. So knowing that the downs are very much a part of the process, as well as the highs, and knowing that there's nothing you can do about it. They will come, there will be a down,
Yeah.
but know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Sometimes it's a very, very short tunnel, and sometimes it's a
Mm-hmm.
long tunnel, but the light does come back, and you just got to keep one day at a time, just one day at a time, and just give yourself permission. We always say give yourself permission to create, but give yourself permission not to create when you need to stop as well.
Yeah.
It's a lesson I'm having to learn all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's
Thank you. That's really nice to
it's
hear
not
as well.
easy.
Mm.
It's not easy. Creativity is fun, but it's hard work. You can't be creative all the time. No one can output 100%.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Thank you.
Curl
Thank
up with a
you.
book and a cup of tea.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know. Look at this big mug. It's like it's huge. It's like almost the size of my head.
I was actually seeing you drinking from there earlier, going, I need a mug like that, because
It's
a
huge.
standard mug is
Yeah.
just, it's one
It
gulp and it's gone.
keeps the tea hot for you just fill up the whole thing and it's like keeps you going for ages. Well, thank you so much for all your wise words today, and yeah, you've come so far, like since we last spoke. You've done so much, and I
Oh,
continue to be impressed by you. So
well,
everyone
I
should
mean,
check out
I
your
said I was going to try not to be like that excited puppy, like in our very first interview. I failed. You can't change who you are. You can't change who you
exactly.
are. So,
Exactly. That's it. That's
yeah,
it. Hmm.
it's well,
It's
I
nice.
guess if it helps someone else who's going through a dark patch, or
Yeah.
um, being an artist, it can be very isolating, because you spend a lot of time in your own head and in
Mm,
your own creative process, and you forget that other people are out there, other artists are going through
yeah.
exactly the same thing, but we just don't talk about it.
Yeah. And that's why, like, I was talking to Kim the other day and she's like, this is why, she hates doing things on her own. And she's like, that's why I keep filling my studio with all these, young people who are just starting their creative journeys as well. And it's all very exciting hearing
It's
what they've
because
got
they've
to
got that
say.
enthusiasm,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. And it keeps her, she said, I swear it's what keeping me feeling energetic and young. It's just like that feeling of like,
but also
there's this newness.
I've heard teachers always say this, that they often learn just as much from their students as their students learn from them when they're teaching a class. There
Absolutely.
are so many things I've learned. I mean, I've actually
Mm.
changed some of my classes based on what I've learned from
Yeah.
students in
Hmm.
the class I'm teaching, and I'm like,
Yeah. Oh,
oh, why didn't
that's
I think about
yeah.
doing? You know what? Let's just change it up. Let's do it this way. That's much easier. And then I start doing it that way from then on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Always being
it's
formed by the people around you. I think that's
yeah. I
the
think
takeaway.
never ever get stuck doing something the same way that it's always been done, because that's the way you've always done it.
Yeah.
Art doesn't work that way.
Yeah. We had
Yeah.
that a lot in nursing where it was like, I'd ask a question when I was starting out and I'm like, but why do you do it like that? And literally this woman turned around to me and she was like, she'd been a nurse for like 30 years. And she was like, we've
Yeah.
always done it like that. And I said, but why? Like, wouldn't it be easier doing this way or more effective? And she was like, but that's the way we've always done it. And it was like this real, I can't change because this is the process that I learned all back
This
in
is
the
a
day.
process,
And
this
this
is a
is, yeah.
protocol, and this is what we have to do. It doesn't matter if there is an easier way that's just as good.
It's quite
This is how we've been
interesting.
told we have to do it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When you're a creative thinker, it's very difficult to color within the lines.
It's a whole mess. I love it.
Yeah.
No, well,
Rub the lines out.
thank you so much for chatting to me and
Oh, you're
giving
welcome.
everyone that's listening an insight into the inner artist of Heather.
Well,
Yeah,
thanks for
and
inviting me to chat. It's been a while, and
yeah.
it's been nice to chat again.